Hello everyone. Welcome to the video lecture series under Employees Compensation Act. In this lecture, we are going to discuss two separate topics. One is contracting and the other is contracting out. Now, at the outset, I first want to clarify that they are not interrelated. It's not contracting and contracting out. They are not interrelated or interconnected. It's just that independently, they are two very small topics. So I have clubbed it together under one lecture. Contracting relates to an agreement between the employer and employee, and how in such agreements the employee cannot give up his right to claim a compensation. So first we'll start with the provision of contracting. Now, as we are aware that every employee working in a factory or industry need not necessarily be a direct employee of the principal employer. In several cases, several situations, the principal employer hires a contractor who in turn may hire a subcontractor who then supplies employees to execute or carry on the work of the principal employer, carry on the work in the factory. Now, if there are three stakeholders who are involved, that is a principal employer, contractor and employee, and in case such contractual workers meets with an accident and files for a compensation, whose liability is it to pay that compensation? Now, in earlier lectures we have discussed that the liability is of the employer to pay the compensation, and the compensation is to be deposited with the commissioner. But because here there are two employers, one is the principal employer and the other is the contractor who is the immediate employer, what liability does the Act specify for payment of the compensation? Now, under Section 12 of the Act, it is expressly mentioned that the principal employer is liable to pay compensation to any contractual worker or contractual employee as he would have been liable for an employee directly employed by him. So just because he is not the immediate employer does not take away his liability to pay compensation to the contractual employees. So the compensation is paid, or the liability is the same as it would have been for those employees who are directly employed by him. For purposes of calculation, however, the wage that is taken is whatever wage the employee is being paid by the immediate employer, that is the contractor, or if it's a subcontractor, then whatever wage is being paid by the subcontractor. The wage for calculation is the same, but the liability is on the principal employer to pay this compensation. The main object of Section 12 is to secure compensation to employees who have been engaged through a contractor by the principal employer for carrying out the work which the principal employer ideally is supposed to be carried out by his own employees. Because he is not hiring his own employees, he has to hire contractual workers through an intermediary. So the protection or the safeguard is the same for contractual workers and workers who are directly employed by the principal employer. So if any workman suffers any injury as a result of accident arising out of and in the course of employment, obviously the employer is liable to pay compensation to such workmen, and there has to be an employer-employee relationship between the person who has to pay the compensation and the person who is claiming the compensation. But in contractual employment, this relationship becomes very difficult to establish between the principal employer and the contractual worker, which is why it is easier for the principal employer to escape the liability. We have already discussed aspects of this under the Contract Labour Regulation Act also. So to prevent such escape from liability from payment of compensation, Section 12 is specifically designed to provide protection to contractual workers. So they can claim this compensation from the principal employer directly, and the principal employer is obligated to pay the amount of compensation. So Section 12 of the Act has two segments to it. First, as we discussed, is the liability of the principal employer to pay the compensation. The second aspect of it is that the principal employer is entitled to be indemnified by the contractor, much like the provisions under CLRA, Contract Labour Regulation and Abolition Act, where if the principal employer incurs expenses towards providing any benefits to the contractual workers, he can eventually recover that expenditure from the contractor. It can be either through deduction in payment to the contractor or by recovery as debt from the contractor. But whatever expenses he incurs towards providing any kind of benefit to the contractual workers, he may recover that amount from the contractor. Likewise, here also, the Act gives the right to the principal employer that he is entitled to be indemnified by the contractor for any amount of compensation that he pays to the contractual worker. Now, if the contractor has hired a subcontractor who has in turn hired the employees, then the subcontractor also has the right to be indemnified. The contractor also has the right to be indemnified by the subcontractor. So the chain of employment is very, very clear, and the liability is very, very clear under the Act, that the first liability is upon the principal employer, but the indemnifying of the right to be indemnified is also provided in the Act itself, that the principal employer can recover the amount from the contractor. If the contractor is making the payment and there is a subcontractor, then he can be indemnified by the subcontractor. All questions related to the amount of indemnity, right to be indemnified, all of it related to indemnity is to be settled by the commissioner. The only exception to this is that the provision is not applicable where the accident has occurred in a place other than the premises where the principal employer has undertaken work. Say, for example, a contractor can supply employees to multiple principal employers. Say there are two principal employers, X and Y, and the accident has taken place in the premises of X. So the liability is of X only. The compensation cannot be claimed from Y for an accident that happened in the premises of X. So the Act clearly specifies that in case the accident occurs elsewhere than on, in, or about the premises where the principal employer has undertaken work, in any place else other than the premises of the principal employer, the compensation from the principal employer cannot be claimed. He is not liable to pay. It has to have taken place in the premises where the principal employer has undertaken or generally undertakes work. So that Section 12 talks about your contractual workers and liability of the principal employer. The next topic is about contracting out. Contracting out is provided under Section 17 of the Act, which talks about giving up the right to claim compensation by the employee. So contracting out is a clause in an agreement between the employer and the employee, wherein the employee relinquishes or gives up his right to claim any compensation from the employer. So in order to provide protection to an ignorant employee, it is provided under section 17 that any agreement or contract, whether it is made before the commencement of the act or after the commencement of the act, whereby an employee relinquishes any right of compensation from the employer for personal injuries arising out of and in the course of employment, such agreement or contract is null and void, so far as it removes or reduces the liability of the employer to pay compensation. So any agreement between the employer and the employee where the employer's liability is reduced or is completely absolved, such agreement or contract is null and void, is not enforceable in a court of law, cannot be used as a defense by the employer. So the idea is that sometimes employees are very desperate to get employment. So they are more concerned about their daily wages, their daily earnings, their monthly earnings, rather than an unforeseen situation where they might meet with an accident and then they have to claim compensation. So in order to get employment, many a times employers encash this desperation and enter into a contract wherein the contracting out clause specifies that in case the employee meets with any accident, the employer is not liable to pay compensation. So the basic principle of labor legislations is that it does not entertain contracting out clauses. So a worker, an employee cannot voluntarily give up his right to get any benefit. Even if he wants, he cannot give up that right or relinquish his right. So here under section 17, this is specifically included or recognized that an employee, even if voluntarily gives up his right to claim compensation against the employer, such agreement or contract is null and void, and the employer will nonetheless be liable to pay compensation even though such an agreement between them exists. One landmark decision in this for this concept of contracting out is Roshandin versus Preeti Lal. It is a 2002 judgment where Roshandin was an employee of a flour mill cum sugarcane factory on a monthly wage of 1500, and one day he was operating a machine of the mill and he suddenly got snapped into the shaft of a column and was crushed by a fast rotating machine, which resulted in very severe injuries on his body. So he claimed a compensation of 5 lakhs from the employer plus medical expenses of 2 lakhs. So initially the respondent claimed that Roshandin was not a workman under him, was not a workman of his mill, and that no such accident had taken place at all, and that Roshandin had not sustained any injuries whatsoever. Now, while this claim of compensation was pending before the commissioner, the employer filed an application that the employer and employee, that is Roshandin and the employer, had entered into an agreement with each other where the employee had agreed not to pursue any claim against the respondent. That the said agreement stated that he no longer wanted to pursue the claim for compensation, and that it has been settled between the employer and the employee. Now this application or this agreement was signed by the employer, but there was no signature of the employee. Instead, there was a thumb impression. So when it was placed before the commissioner erroneously, ignoring section 17 of the act, dismissed the compensation claim of the employee on the basis of the application that the claim has been settled or withdrawn from the end of the employee. After the dismissing of the compensation claim, the employee again filed a petition before the commissioner that the agreement that is submitted by the respondent is an act of fraud, that he had not entered into any such agreement with the employee, with the employer, and that his claim may be entertained again for the amount of compensation that he has raised. So here, referring to section 17, eventually the commissioner declared the agreement between the employer and employee as null and void, but did not touch on the topic or the aspect of fraud that the employer had done. The respondent then challenged the said order before the High Court. The High Court here again erroneously ignoring section 17 of the Act, even though attention had been drawn towards section 17, reversed the order of the commissioner and held that no act of fraud had been committed, and that if the employee wants, he may adopt other legal remedies against the order, but the agreement or the compensation cannot be paid. Other legal remedies may be adopted. So naturally the matter went before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court here, criticizing the decision of the High Court, held that firstly, when the High Court talks about other legal remedies that may be adopted by the employee, does not indicate what other remedies could be adopted, because as per the Act there are no other possible legal remedies that can be contemplated by the employee. It is only through the commissioner that he can file the claim. So the High Court has been wrong in depriving the employee of his legitimate right to have his claim decided in accordance with the provisions of the statute. Further, recognizing section 17 of the Act, which declares the agreement, any agreement between the employer and employee, wherein it reduces the liability of the employer, null and void, the Supreme Court restored the order of the commissioner declaring the agreement null and void, and directed the commissioner to expedite the proceedings and dispose of the claim. So the point being that irrespective of at what juncture such an agreement is arrived at between the employer and employee, whether it is prior to commencement of the Act, whether it is at the time of employment when the employee joins the employer, whether it is after the accident has taken place, whether it is in between the proceedings for claim compensation going on, irrespective of the time when the agreement is entered into between the employer and the employee, all such agreements wherein they reduce or absolve the liability of the employer is null and void and will not have any effect in the